Welcome to the City of Helena City Commission meeting, June 26, 2024. The time is 4:02 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk.
City Attorney Gallagher.
Here.
City Manager Burton.
Here.
Commissioner Dean.
Here.
Commissioner Logan. Commissioner Reed. Here. Commissioner Shirtliff.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. Thank you. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission administrative meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage and your participation. Commissioners, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to bring a proposal to the commission to sign on to a letter, and I have started a draft of a letter that is in front of everyone, asking our congressional members to support S576. This is the Railway Safety Act. It is bipartisan legislation. It's an issue that came up in essentially all of the meetings that I was part of during the National League of Cities Congressional Summit when we met with our congressional delegation. It is a bill to deal with safety regulations for trains carrying hazardous materials. It also works to provide state emergency response commissioners with advance notice and information about hazardous materials being carried on trains through communities across the country. Second piece of the bill is that it works to reduce blocked rail crossings, which we all know continues to be a struggle in our community. And third thing is that to comply with certain requirements regarding train length and weight specifications, track standards, speed restrictions, and response plans. This is an issue that is coming up quickly in the U.S. Senate. It's something that impacts our community directly. And I think it's an opportunity for us to reach out to our congressional delegation and ask for their support. In the draft letter, I talked a little bit about how we have a very real experience with this after the 1989 train explosion. Something that was interesting when I was diving into the data that I did not realize is that since 2012, there have actually been 9 railroad derailment incidents in the Helena area, thankfully without injuries or disasters occurring. But given the issues that we're seeing around the country, something that is very much on the minds of Congress, and I think it would be helpful for us to be able to lend our voice to our congressional delegation. I have sent it to the city manager, and we both our fire chief and police chief, and Chief Campbell did have a suggestion that I thought was a good one, and I might let him just describe it really briefly, and then we can make those edits and send it back out to the commission, and I guess defer to the city manager how to move forward in getting everyone on board if that's something the commission is willing to consider supporting.
Certainly open to it. This is not a meeting for it, right?
I know, I just wanted to bring it here so that everyone could look at the draft, and then we can decide how to move forward. But maybe Chief Campbell could really quickly, please.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Dean, letter's a template format, and it does call out the high hazard flammable train criteria. Although that is very specific in Montana, really any release of hazardous materials, toxic inhalation, hazard, flammability, poison, and corrosive does have the capacity to immediately overwhelm our local, regional, and state hazmat response resources. So my suggestion to Commissioner Dean is to include that detail.
And I think that's great addition.
Any others? Yeah, I just want to add my own 1 cent too. But week and a half ago, I went to Armenia under the auspices of the State Department. There were about 4 or 5 mayors from around the country and discuss with different city leaders about democracy, about open government, about transparency and all that. And we did that. We met with, in fact, the president of Armenia met with the delegation. He welcomed us into his country. For the first time, the United States had the highest ranking member ever visit Armenia in decades. Well, the Deputy Secretary of State was also on the visit. And Stepanavan was the city that was selected to possibly be a sister city relation with Helena. And I visited the city. It's outside of the capital, Yerevan, and met with the mayor, met with members of parliament, and a tentative memoranda of understanding was signed. And until it moves forward, I have to bring it to the commission and to see if we can establish a sister city relationship with Stepanavan. I did. I asked I inquired from the mayor and his team, what is it they wanted the corporation should be like? What is it they wanted from us? What is it? And they were very open. The U.S. is moving forward into Armenia because Armenia is looking at democracy. And the mayor explained that what they're looking for is they want democracy. They want to shadow us to see how we do things here. And they wanted to look at small businesses in the Helena area. And I thought those were things that easily be accomplished. And so I told them we'll have to meet with the commission to see how best we can reciprocate that. That is, what is it we can gain from them in terms of their gaining whatever from us. So, commissioners, a memorandum of the statements in there. If you have questions, I'll answer them. Thinking about it. Anything else? Recommendations from Helena Citizens Council, Representative Laura Fitzgerald.
I'm over here.
Oh.
Hello, no specific recommendations today, just an update that the Citizens Council is attending farmers markets and the art walk frequently with some new outreach materials to connect with citizens. So that's been going well, and we're going to be needing a new vice chair because ours is moving away. So, Lowell Chandler. Thank you.
Comments or questions for Representative Fitzgerald? Thanks. City Manager report.
Mayor, I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Presentations. Chief,
Yes, sir.
wildlife update, wildland update. Campbell Hall, Lands Manager, and Seth.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Open Lands Manager Brad Langseth and I each have a brief presentation just for a wildland fire update. If we can bring those up in just a second,
Please.
Alex, do you want me to run it?
If you want, I can
It's 4 slides long if that matters.
just.
While they are looking at putting up their slides, I just want to encourage each and every one of you, please go to the Kendrick Legion Field on Thursday. Commissioner Dean will be throwing the first pitch, so come and cheer.
It's my tryout for the team. You better believe that's practice around now, half less. But I might take that.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, just a brief overview of where Helena Fire stood with some of the wildland urban interface and some of the fires that we've been involved in recent years. We've had some deployments to out-of-state fires, in-state fires, and then some local fires. So a brief history of those are up there. What's interesting is depending on the level of disaster declaration and things that go on with these deployments, they all follow somewhat of a different model in terms of how the costs are recuperated, if they're recuperated at all. So we continue to explore these options of revenue generating, or at least revenue offsetting, depending on our degree of involvement. Next slide, please. So our older apparatus, these are two 2005 Type 6s. Type 6s were the standard bearer for wildland firefighting for many, many years. Generally 300 gallons of water on a 1-ton pickup chassis. One of these had a mechanical failure during fire operations and it caught on fire. So it was deemed unfit for service and went through the insurance claim process. And the other one is up for sale through our finance process. These have since been replaced, and we're now in essentially an entirely new fleet of wildland firefighting apparatus. Next one, please, Alex. Thank you. So our new apparatus pictured here, through that insurance claim process, we were able to get a new chassis, and then with some ARPA delegation with permission of the commission, we were able to put a new pump and slide in on that. With increased water gallonage capacity, it's actually a Type 5, so that increases our firefighting capability by about 100 gallons of water. And then the vehicle on the right was procured through our capital improvement process. It's a Type 3, which is essentially the new standard bearer for wildland firefighting apparatus. The spec on that vehicle is generated by CAL FIRE, who has quite a bit of experience in urban interface. So that's a major enhancement without actually changing our personnel volume. We have much more water carrying capability, better off-road capability, and four-wheel drive capability. So it's a nice upgrade that we've been able to influence through our capital process. Next one, please. Training. We've also been working diligently over the past couple of years. HFD's moved toward NWCG and DNRC credential training. There's a lot of acronyms in the wildland realm, but that's to help satisfy red card requirements. And those are the minimum necessary requirements for deployments and the ability to go to other areas and other states' fires. So this helps formalize our onboarding and ongoing training process. So it goes above and beyond just an annual refresher. Now we're really talking about career progression, development, and improvement of our training. Also increase the eligibility of listing our resources for interagency response order and capability system. And that's the methodology that if you were to have a fire that needed a ton of outside help, that's how the resources are ordered. And I believe that's the update from the fire side. If there's any questions before Mr. Lennox.
Commissioners, it's a question. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Next slide, please.
Same presentation.
There's a second one for, I just sent them separate. I'm sorry, Alex.
Mayor, Commissioners, thanks for having me here today. Helena is so fortunate to have a tremendous open land ownership. We now own and manage around 2,500 acres, but 1,800 of those acres are contiguously forested, and that brings a responsibility as far as managing wildland fuel immediately adjacent to the city. Currently, we have somewhere between 750,000 and 1 million trees. At one time, we had as many as 2 million trees. We have our forest fuel treatments on a 10-year maintenance interval. And to date, we've treated about 1,600 acres. So we've only got a couple hundred acres that haven't seen treatment in the time that the city's owned and managed these properties. Next slide, please. This slide depicts why I bracketed the tree population, because I constantly have new growth occurring within the open land system. The more forest management we do and the healthier our trees are, the more productive they are. We're giving as many cones to the state nursery as we can, and they're actually shocked at how viable our cones are and how many seeds they're able to extract from the cones. And this slide shows what we have going on out there is a tremendous germination success. So during that 10-year interval since the last treatment on the property, we just get an ingrowth of young forest in there. And by treatment, what I mean is that we're reducing the crown density. So we're eliminating tree crown contact. And we're doing that so that if we get a wildfire that passes through the city's open lands, we'll have a greater likelihood of keeping that fire on the ground. And at the same time, we're increasing the base canopy height, basically pruning the tree up to where a fire can burn through the grasses and stay on the ground. But during that 10 years, then we get this ingrowth that'll be about chest high and gets that ground fuel back up to the canopies of the trees, and we need to treat them again. Next slide, please. Our annual forestry costs average right around $250,000, and that includes the treatments, burning, grass seeding, and the reclamation, re-raking and seeding the burned areas. Our maintenance assessment produces enough revenue to cover about $100,000 of that cost. And that means that we have to annually come up with grant support around $150,000. So again, we're about in our 10-year maintenance interval, we're about $2.5 million, and our maintenance assessment can cover about $1 million of that. Historically, we've been able to do that. So for the past 20 years, we've averaged right around that $150,000. We have good years and bad years. But when, like last year, we undershot that and only came up with about $75,000. So then that just puts you further behind the next year. Currently, we have over $500,000 in pending grant applications out. I feel pretty strong about probably around $250,000 of that. So we are doing what we need to do. We're getting a lot of public interest this year, and that's coming from the ARPA home assessments. People then contact me and wonder when we're going to treat the open space next to their residence and that type of thing. So it's come a long way in my tenure here, from a big pushback on cutting trees and managing the forest fuels to the public embracing it and understanding the importance. Next slide, please. This slide shows you where our pending grant applications are right now. So basically from on Mount Helena, from the Ambrose Trail down to the backyard residential homes, and on Mount Ascension, from the very top of Mount Ascension all the way down to the residential homes. The top of Mount Ascension is one of those untreated areas. It burned in 1953. and is extremely overstocked and heavy with fuels. So hopefully we do get funding. We do have one project scheduled next to the West Ridge subdivision, which will occur in September. And then we'll wait to see where we schedule our other treatments based on where the funding comes in. One thing we have to remember is if we treat an area and just use our cash reserve, then it's going to be another 10 years before you can apply for grant funds in that area, because you have to treat it during the life of the grant. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, just a brief comment.
Yes,
I'd like
please.
to thank you both for the presentation. I think one of the things that's pretty important to understand is this lets you know how robust our the city is in addressing wildland fires. What we heard from tonight is both response and prevention, and update on that. I hope in the near future we can perhaps get an update from Tri-County maybe to as to how the ARPA program is going with relative to that more urban side of things. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any public comments on this topic? Looks like, do you have any online?
Mayor, I see no hands raised, no public comment online.
Thank you. City County Board of Health update. Health Officer Neiman, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Brenda Neiman. I am the Health Officer for your City County Health Department. Wanted to bring just a few items to your attention today. One of which is in celebration of our reaccreditation. Sorry, I'm looking over your desk. We worked over the last year and a half to go through the rigorous process of being reaccredited. So 6 years ago, we were initially accredited, and every 5 years it's required by the Public Health Accreditation Board to go through the process again and get reevaluated and reaccredited by the national board. What reaccreditation means is that we have looked very closely at our policies and plans and our performance to make sure that we meet national standards. And essentially the review of our performance showed that we met 98% of all of the measures, either fully or largely met those measures. We had one item that was slightly, but otherwise everything was met. So that's a big deal. And not only is that a big deal, but many health departments are not able to achieve what we did, and for the second time in a row. So again, accreditation shows that we are being transparent and we're focused on quality, and it demonstrates our commitment to providing excellent public health service to this community and the county. The second update I wanted to give you is around our community health assessment this year. Part of the process of putting together the community health assessment, which we do every 3 years, is to collect primary data. So in other words, we want to hear directly from the residents who live in this county. We have put this process in place in partnership with Peerview Health Center, St. Peter's Health, United Way of the Lewis and Clark area, and Rocky Mountain Development Council, along with Public Health. We've been doing this since 2017 together in this collaboration. We did it differently this year than we've ever done it before. So typically what we have done in the past is the hospital has commissioned a phone survey that reached out to people living in our county and asking them questions about their health status and their perspective or perception about health in our community. We chose this time to go door to door. We wanted to spend time with residents in our county, having conversations and asking some questions about health status and health of our community. That process is going on as we speak, and it started Monday. And we're also doing it in partnership with our surrounding counties. So Powell, Jefferson, Broadwater, and Marr counties are doing the same survey at the same time, which means that we'll be able to see in a broader sense how residents are doing as far as health status is concerned, and hear from them what their greatest needs are, so that we can then use that information this year. We gather it, analyze it, and then we'll be using that data to build our community health improvement plan. That process starts next year, 2025. We have not yet met our goal. We were hoping for 210 responses, and we, because we have not met our goal, we're going to continue to work on it throughout the course of this week and finish up on Friday. So we're hoping to be able to get the necessary responses from residents that we need. And then big wins for early childhood. And so 3 grants that the health department has received that is specific to early childhood services. We were selected and granted funds to help us build a universally offered home visiting program. So up to this point, our home visiting services have been available primarily to families that have some kind of a risk factor. This program will allow us to connect with any family that has a newborn baby, and at least offer them one. We're hoping several home visits, but this will help us to build this universally offered home visiting program that we have not had before. So that's really exciting for young families. Additionally, we received a grant that allowed us to buy a training seat, which helps us to train families on how to install their child safety seat properly. So we are out and about in the community helping families learn how to install their child safety seats. And then the third grant that we recently received was from St. Peter's Health. It allowed us to purchase a blood testing machine. This will allow our WIC program to do blood testing in our WIC program for young children who may be exposed to lead within their home or community environments. It's really important that we identify elevated blood lead early. There are a lot of cognitive impacts that can come from exposure to lead. So the earlier we can identify it and then help the families make corrections, the better. So that it's one more opportunity in our community where kiddos can get screened and we can assist families. That's what I have for you today. What questions can I answer?
Commissioners, comments, questions?
That's good. Congratulations on your reaccreditation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. And those 3 grants that you got.
Yes.
It's not a question. So occasionally I assume my colleagues also get requests folks where I go for to learn to properly install RCs for regular. We can point them to me.
Yeah, that's what we have. Certified technicians in the health department that are happy to help families with the RC.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Just want to echo what Commissioner Sherwood said. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I see it means a lot to you.
It does. Yeah, we worked really hard, but I think more than anything, it's not about the accreditation itself. It's about really showing that the health department works hard for this county and for the residents who live here. It's about proving that we are an excellent health department. So to us, that is what means the most. So.
Do you have any other public comments? Madam Clerk.
I see no hands raised up.
Thank you. Thank you, Officer Neiman. AARP Network of Age-Friendly Communities. You have the floor. I know I'm part of AARP.
Well, hello, I'm Nancy Anderson. I'm the outreach director with AARP Montana, and I lead our livable communities and age-friendly work. And we'd really like to thank you for inviting us here today to share information about the network of age-friendly communities, and more importantly, your interest in the work that the age-friendly issues address. And so I've got with me Sarah Sandow, who has a new position, and she is the Community Health Promotion Division Administrator for Lewis and Clark County Health. And we have worked together for a number of years on this issue. And I've also worked with Ellie, Ray, and with Chris a little bit, and previously with Sharon Haugen here. So I thought I would begin by showing a video that really does describe what the network of age-friendly communities is about. Fingers crossed.
Welcome to the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities, or the network for short. This is the first in a series of modules that will guide you through the process of making your community more age-friendly by joining the network. In this module, we'll talk about why age-friendly communities are so important. We'll explore some of the challenges related to our increasing lifespans and how the network can help solve these problems in your community. And finally, we'll give you a process for joining the network. Everything from forming a team and assessing your community's needs to creating an action plan to address those needs. First, let's review what the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities is. The network is a voluntary membership program that serves as a framework for state and local leaders to implement changes that make communities more livable for people of all ages. The network is a forum to share national and global research, planning models, and best practices. While most municipalities that join the network are counties, cities, or towns, in 2017, AARP expanded the network to allow states and territories to enroll. So what exactly do we mean by age-friendly? Well, age-friendly communities are places that make it easy for people to live their best lives at every age. They offer diverse housing and transportation choices, safe and accessible public spaces, and ways for people of all ages and abilities to participate in their community. Age-friendly communities also promote health, access to information for all, and opportunities for increased social engagement. It's important to remember that age-friendly communities aren't just for older adults. Surveys conducted by AARP show that older and younger adults share similar concerns. Our survey shows that people of all ages and from every generation value the same community features. Things like well-maintained healthcare facilities, parks, and grocery stores are important to people of all ages. So why are age-friendly communities important? Worldwide, the population is aging, and the United States is no exception. In fact, our population is aging more quickly than you might expect. In 2015, there were almost 46 million people aged 65 or older. By 2030, there will be 73 million people aged 65 or older. By what year do you think older adults will outnumber children in the United States? 2035? 2050? Or do you think that older adults will never outnumber children? By 2035, there will be more people aged 65 years or older in the United States than children. For the first time in U.S. history, older adults will outnumber children. Also, people are living longer. In 1950, the life expectancy for Americans was 68. Today, it is 78. And today's average 10-year-old has a 50% chance of living to 104. AARP survey results show that people over the age of 50 have a strong desire to stay in their home and community as they age, and they're making plans to do so. However, many of our communities weren't designed for an aging population. For example, did you know that in the United States, men typically outlive their ability to safely drive by 6 years, and women by a full decade? And here's a really important thing to note. People can become isolated in places where it is hard to get around, especially after they stop driving. And extended periods of isolation can have devastating effects on physical health. In fact, The health risks of prolonged isolation are equal to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Take a moment to think about your community. Is it easy for people who don't or can't drive to shop, work, and socialize? For those who want to downsize or move to more flexible or accessible housing, are there housing options available in the community? Does your community have ways to help residents of all ages connect and socialize? If you're worried that your community is not built to support the needs of a growing number of aging people, you're not alone. Joining the AARP network of age-friendly states and communities can help your community tackle issues like these. Communities of all sizes can enroll. Our network includes communities with populations of less than 100 people and some with more than 10 million, and membership is free. Let's take a look at the steps involved in joining the network. Joining the network isn't a certification or designation that your community is age-friendly. Rather, it is a public commitment by local leadership to become an age-friendly state or community, one that serves people of all ages. First, identify some likely stakeholders in this work. Look around to see who already has a hand in serving the needs of older adults, or who is shaping the housing and transportation options in your community. Assess what elected officials are saying about the community and identify potential champions for this effort, as well as those who could play an important support role. This is the beginning of your project team. Once you've done that, decide on a convener to lead the work. The convener will be responsible for completing an application to submit to AARP to join the network. The application will collect basic information about your community, and it will identify some of the major challenges and opportunities that are likely to arise. The convener will also be responsible for working with your local government if they're not the lead themselves. A signed letter of commitment from your highest local or state elected official is a requirement to join, and it must accompany and support your application. Once enrolled, you'll need to follow the age-friendly process, which requires your team to conduct an assessment of your community's needs, create an action plan that builds on community strengths and preferences, implement your action plan, periodically review your progress in the action plan, share best practices or your key learnings with other age-friendly communities, write a progress report at the end of year 5. We'll go into more detail about each phase of the process in the following modules. What can you expect at the end of this 5-year process? Well, here are some typical results. Communities in later phases of the process told us 60% achieved a change in public policy. The most frequent policy changes involved improvements in housing, transportation, outdoor spaces and buildings, and health and community services. 34% reported a private sector investment or action had taken place as a result of their age-friendly work. The most frequent investments were related to housing, health and community services, or communication and information. 85% described other successes, including raising awareness of age-friendly issues, increasing collaboration in the community, integrating an age-friendly lens into strategic planning. This concludes Module 1. We hope you have a better understanding of what makes age-friendly work so important.
Well, thank you.
See if we can. Okay.
So to get back, do I need to stop sharing this?
Oh, I apologize. I thought that.
It's this right here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my apologies for our technical issues, but I am really glad that that video was subtitled so that you could get a little bit of a feel for the issues we were trying to describe. So I'm just going to hit a couple of high points here, and then I'd like to entertain questions or answer any concerns that you might have. So as it said on the video, you know, our population is aging at a dramatic rate. And you can see from this slide that Montana is one of the states that is aging the fastest. A couple of things that they pointed out on the video that really has struck me is that one, by 2035, there will be more people over age 65 in the United States than there will be children for the first time in history. And I think that's a pretty striking statistic. The other thing that kind of took my breath away is that today an average 10-year-old has a 50% chance of living to be 104. So we need to really do things throughout our society to prepare for what is going to be a much different demographic than we see today. So we've talked about the network of age-friendly communities. An age-friendly community is where the elected leadership has made a commitment to actively work with residents and local advocates to make their town more age-friendly place to live for people of all ages and abilities. And really to embed using an age-friendly lens in planning and policy work. Not that it should be the only lens that is used, certainly not. You do that right now where you look at a lot of different segments of our society. By committing to be age-friendly, you're just committing to add that age-friendly lens. And I'm happy to say that here in Helena, in many age-friendly communities, there are community groups that work with the city or with the municipality to help support the age-friendly work and to help with the assessment and to connect within the community. And we already have a group established here in Helena that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. We do have some background here. AARP Montana has been working on this initiative for several years. A month before the pandemic hit, we made a presentation to the League of City and Towns Board of Directors about the age-friendly network. They issued a proclamation supporting it and encouraging their members to join the network. Since then, both Roundup and Billings have joined the network. And in the Helena area, Sarah and I also went to the Helena Chamber of Commerce and to the Board of Public Health, and we made presentations to both of them. Both of those groups issued a proclamation, resolution supporting the effort in the Helena area. And then the pandemic hit. And everyone's priorities changed, rightfully so. And so we will be moving forward with this. We've been excited to have conversations with Tim Burton and others on staff here. And we'll be reaching out to other groups across the state. I would like Sarah to take a minute to talk about the citizen group that's in place, what they've been doing up until now, and how they're excited to support the efforts with the network of age-friendly communities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Sarah Sandown, the Community Health Promotion Division Administrator at Lewis and Clark Public Health, as Nancy introduced me. So Aging Well, we started about 5 years ago. The Healthy Communities Coalition, which is a chronic disease prevention coalition, has been going on for about 10 years. And we've had different work groups under that coalition, depending on the interest and availability and what is in our community health improvement plan. And so about 5 years ago, we realized that there wasn't necessarily a coalition or a specific group working on aging related issues. There were a lot of organizations, but how do we communicate? How do we talk? How do we work together to really solve some of these more complex problems? So that is where Aging Well developed. And ever since then, we have a wide variety of members on the group, from organizations to city personnel to county personnel to state personnel to realtors to private. So really a variety, because we know that aging related issues affect the full spectrum of our community. And so we've been able to focus on different projects such as a health screening event for seniors. We've done a digital storytelling project. We've done just kind of a wide variety based on what we're hearing as needs, what we can do together, what we can work on, and what is coming up in both our community health improvement plan. So aging related issues is listed there, as well. Personally, our Lewis and Clark Public Health Strategic Plan also includes aging related issues. So that's why we are some of the members and leads of the Aging Well Work Group, because we know it's something that's important that we want to be working on. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Sarah. And it's also important to point out that the aging community is not all frail elderly. There's frail elderly that need special attention and special sorts of services, but there's also the active, vital older residents of our communities, and they need to be able to connect and to participate in the community in the same way. So it's not just about nursing homes, which is oftentimes how people interpret it. So this is the age-friendly program process. And I do want to let you know that AARP, the first year is spent doing a community assessment. AARP has a needs assessment tool that we make available for free, and we'll crunch those numbers and give you the survey results afterwards. If you choose to use that, you can certainly use something different, but there is that free tool. And the action plan that follows then can certainly dovetail with updates of your current planning documents, the growth policy, the comprehensive plan, the downtown plans, bike ped plans, all of those. When you get to the updates of them, if you use that age-friendly lens, that aging lens, that's going to put it right in the ballpark. So in fact, a few years ago, shortly after your last growth policy was updated, I was working with Ellie and Sharon, and they asked me to take a look at the growth policy and see how it complied with age-friendly principles. And it complied in many, many ways. You really already embrace age-friendly principles. You had a complete streets policy. You also had the Affordable Housing Task Force, and later established the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The Be Heard Helena is a really effective way to get feedback from your residents, and also to share information with them. The HCC is a great way also to connect with residents and to get updates and feedback. So I know that it's time to update that policy again, and it seems like the time is right for you to go ahead and join the network so that you can leverage the many benefits that are available. There's a peer network that you can connect with, communities of all sizes, and also a lot of model policy and legislation that's available for communities of all sizes. So I just wanted to point out, right now there are almost 900 communities nationwide that are enrolled in this network. It's very vital, and they're very active. They share with one another. It's a great network for best practices sharing. So it's based on the 8 domains of livability, and these are the individual items that community members indicated were most important to them to live in a great community. That's what community members said. And it really just serves as a framework for the age-friendly work. So, the community assessment should help you decide as a community which issues you want to work on. And frankly, nobody works on all 8 domains at one time. I wanted to point that out. You find the top couple of priority items that the community has said have risen to the top. And then those are the ones that you can work on, for your plan. So there's no need to go into all of those domains. And I did put together a separate handout that goes into detail on the domains for anyone that's interested in that. You can look a little bit more closely at that. I did want to take a moment to talk about the AARP Community Challenge Grant Program. This is a program that does consider the membership in the age-friendly network as we're making determinations nationwide. We had thousands of applications this year. I'm very excited to that today is announcement day. So I did also give you a copy of the news release, the press release that we did today. We're excited that there were 6 Montana projects funded through this community grant program this year, and the Prickly Pear Land Trust in Helena was one of them. They received $20,000 to improve the 10 Mile Creek Park with a wheelchair charging station and some other improvements for accessibility. So we just have been really pleased with Montana's standing in those in the community grant program. And I did want to take just a minute for another plug about the Helena area. Over the years, we have funded many projects in the Helena area, the Myrnaloy Exploration Works, the Mount Helena Handicap Trail, Bike Walk Montana, picnic tables in East Helena, the 6th Ward mural, Helena History Foundation. With those downtown walks, because of our support, they're able to offer people 50 plus half price tickets for those for a couple of years now. And now the Prickly Pear Foundation. So just to wrap up, there are lots of resources available from AARP to support work in the age-friendly area. We've got more than 20 publications that are free to local leaders for creating better housing, transportation, and public spaces. There's a weekly newsletter that's free for, and it goes to over 100,000 community leaders around the country. And you can learn more about our grant program. And I also want to make sure that we double down on that community group, the Aging Well group, because that really is, I think, a necessary and supportive group that can help support work in that area. So with that, thank you. And I'd love to entertain any questions you might have.
Questions or comments from the commission?
First, I'm fully supportive of us joining the age-friendly network. One thing that I think is well timed, if we, as a commission, just like before with this, is that not only do we have the land use plan process underway, but we also are soon undertaking the long-range transportation plan process as well. And I think that all of the principles here could very easily and should influence the development of the LRTP. And so looking forward to hopefully having your participation in those types of plans. One thing that I just wanted to note really quickly, I've been Jimmy and I have a couple friends who have recently started on the caregiving journey. Some of the things I was interested to learn lately is that 1 in 3 caregivers are either Gen Z or millennials. And so I think being able to pursue these type of policies not only impact those who are aging, but the generations that are entering into caregiving to make their lives, just as full as they're caring for a loved one. And so I'm excited to, hopefully be able to expand on some of these principles as a community.
Thank you. It's also very important for employers to understand that their employees, many of their employees are caregivers, and that affects their ability at work somewhat, and it also affects their ability as a caregiver. And so there are very simple steps they can take to help support employed caregivers so that they can do justice to both of those very important roles. We've got a lot of resources on that.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you very much, Nancy, for being here. I know during the pandemic, it was said that we lost 207,000 Montanans to retirement, and they aged out of the workforce, but some are still looking at working due to the increased price of food, housing, fuel, etc. You're absolutely right that they still can offer a lot. I know there's plenty of employers in town that are not looking for full-time, part-time, but anytime with seniors. And I know the Helena Chamber of Commerce has worked really hard on that as well. So thanks for bringing this up, and I'm definitely in support of this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do we have any public comments there, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, if I may just add that, of course, the health department has been heavily involved with this work, and this topic is definitely a part of the assessment that we are working on. So those questions we're asking our residents align very well with the assessment that is required for this process and the community health improvement planning that would come out of the results of that assessment. So what I want to emphasize is that you have the health department's commitment in this process, and we're here as a partner with you.
Here I see no hands raised, no public comment online.
Thank you, Nancy. An ordinance revising the regulations of signs by amending chapter 23, title 11 of the Helena City Code by repealing and replacing chapter 23, general sign regulations in its entirety, and adopting new chapter 23, sign regulations in lieu thereof. Director Brent, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. So Mike's been the project lead on this for the past year and a half. And we've really been working on the sign code changes way longer than that, preceded my arrival in the city. But this is a culmination of that process. So I don't want to take any thunder away from Mike, but maybe if you'll let me, I'll just turn it over to Planner Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission and Director Brink. As introduced, I'm Planner Michael Alvarez with the Community Development Department. So on July 15th, we'll be bringing forward a regular item where you will have the opportunity to vote for, against, or to table an ordinance that amends Chapter 23 of Title 11 of the Helena City Code by repealing Chapter 23 General Sign Regulations in its entirety and adopting this new Chapter 23 sign regulations in lieu thereof. When I do my regular meeting and public presentations, I'm going to lead with a slide on our state granted authority to legislate signs. But for brevity's sake, you can just assume we do have that authority for today. The current sign code poses several issues for the city, and namely, it's kind of just not as defensible as you would want, need, or expect city code to be. The main culprit behind that is the Reed versus Town of Gilbert decision made in 2015. And the city was a little bit stuck at that time with the choice of adopting very sort of inadequate sign regulations in the pursuit of content neutrality after that decision, or just trying to navigate our existing code with band-aids and administrative decisions, which is sort of the course ultimately taken there. That is until the City of Austin, Texas versus Regan National Advertising decision in 2021 gave some clarity to some important tools that really allow us to have this robust code post-Reed. Because of the sweeping nature of those decisions, it was important to address other shortcomings of the current sign code, which hasn't been comprehensively overhauled since 1997. So some of the things we were hoping to address here are improving clarity in signage regulation, increasing that conformance with recent legal rulings, and to ensure the current needs of the community are being met. To the extent of improving clarity, the new sign ordinance is going to introduce easy to understand tables for permitted and not permitted sign types by sign types and by the face type and by district. and the new sign ordinance I don't know why I'm so nervous right now. So it's also going to introduce simple design guidelines by type. And basically, a user of the new sign code will be able to look up a sign that they might want to erect by sign type, sign face, or just skipping right down to the design guidelines. And we would have really struggled to distill the existing sign code into the sort of neat little brochures that you have in front of you. The ease of use here is a driving force, being able to like produce an easy to understand document that somebody can just hold in their hand. Please bear with those; they are just a draft at this point. You know, the new sign code is also going to eliminate references to administrative areas no longer in use or in conflict with other areas of the code. So for instance, this passage from our existing code gives the Board of Adjustment powers they aren't granted elsewhere. It refers to the OSR, NC, B3, and urban renewal zoning districts, which are either defunct or out of use. While the new code does reference B3 in places, it's no longer on the map, but it is still on the books. So it is alluded to, but this new code helps clear up a lot of those issues. One of the key changes being made to the sign standards is that is going to be with wall signage. Wall signs will scale with the building facades in most commercial districts. Hard capping wall signage is what we do now. We do it in aggregate for the entire building at 200 square feet. That basically has frequently seen businesses apply for and receive variances to allow signage that is better matched to the sides of their facades and to surrounding neighbors that have also have large facades and have received such variances in the past. So while previous granting of those variances to those businesses doesn't automatically mean such a variance will be granted again. Practically speaking, not granting those a similar variance in a similar location opens the city to scrutiny over arbitrary and capricious decisions. So we would like to basically have our code actually represent the kinds of the sizes of signs we've actually been granting to businesses. So that's the update for wall signage there. How far did that skip ahead? The current community needs were reassessed with this. With regard to the growth policy, the applicable goals and objectives from the 2019 growth policy are goals 1 and goals 10, objectives 69, 76, and 85. And essentially the growth policy is really telling the city here to promote business while embracing the uniqueness and natural beauty of Helena's setting. So it was an important tenet of the Zoning Commission's effort in reshaping this code to get this balancing act right, where they have tried to create a code that supports both the community needs and aesthetics. Another new item that we don't currently handle in the existing code is the billboard business permit, the cap and replace program. The proposed sign code will bring the business of billboards into alignment with the rest of the business community by requiring that billboards operated in the city limits obtain business permits. Currently, all businesses operating in the city of Helena must license each location where their business is conducted but billboard locations have historically been left out of that accounting. This gives us a chance to assess exactly how the number of billboards in town that there are, cap them, and those permits are saleable. If they don't keep them active, they can be recouped, and city commission can decide to destroy the license, reducing the cap number or sell it, and thus keeping the number of billboards even. Another important thing to be addressed with this code is our current code hasn't been comprehensively looked at since 1997. That predates the extensive use of electronic message centers around town. So the proposed sign code will implement new lighting standards for electronic message centers, and the essentially current controls on electronic message centers are absent, and this is going to allow us to condition brightness, animation, how frequently they can change their messaging, that kind of thing. This is something that we worked really hard at crafting with the local sign companies and their representatives to create something that was going to work for them and for the residents of the city. So another new item is the planned sign program. In the land use table, the city removed the land use category shopping center, which was controlled by CUPs. So one of the primary things that CUP for a shopping center gave the city control over was signage, and the ability to enforce a common sign on the shopping center. The planned sign program makes that control administrative and generalizes the applicability to any large facility. So it sort of expands that and makes it easier to get on a path for getting those signs together just with your one permitting application. The public comment that went with this packet is grouped together by generally by month and corresponds to which version of the sign code we were working on at that time. You'll notice there was a flurry of comments from late last winter when we gained some traction with the sign community and in the media. In 2024, the level of comments that we've been receiving has died down as we've streamlined who we're working with, where the local on-premise sign companies are generally working through the James Carpentier, who is the director of state and local government affairs with the International Sign Association, we've also been working extensively with Lamar and Yesko, who has been at every work session and meeting and given us a lot of valuable feedback, and have had a hand in guiding this legislation. Although I should note they do have a couple of objections to it. They would prefer if, for instance, they would prefer signage to be up to the federal maximum of 672 square feet, which we don't currently allow. They would prefer not to be permitted annually, which the billboard permitting business permit program would have them annually billed, and just generally otherwise regulated as they currently are. it's worth noting here that most of the comments from city residents do generally predate the billboard business permitting solution that we came, and more are and generally address the earlier versions that involved sunsetting billboards, which we are no longer pursuing. We're rather doing a cap and replace program. This ordinance is going to be brought in front of the mayor and commission as a regular item on July 15th, and should be brought back tentatively scheduled for August 12th. And I would be happy to take your questions now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More of a comment. I was looking at this and I appreciate the making it easier and limited, but it would be great, because I was trying to figure out the code stuff, if we could have like a QR code that linked to code for people to get to it faster. That would be helpful, because I think if you know what you're looking for, this is great, but you're still going to have to go back and look for the code, and that would be helpful. And then the other question I had was on the current system of billboards and the Yesco and the other company, I forget the name of, they have most of them. And now under the new ordinance, they would have to recompute those. Can you explain how the change would sort of roll out with existing billboard owners and people who wanted to access those?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Commission. So they would be so each year, and the way it's designed now is that in January, the first year would be January 2026. They would need to permit their existing sign faces. So they would continue to own those. They would, it's an existing location. They would now be required to essentially just get a business permit for operating that billboard business at that location. And what's really nice about this is it puts the permitting structure on operating the business as opposed to navigating the mess of, you know, do they lease this place? Do they own it? How did that billboard come to be on that location? They're in charge of putting up the imagery and the billboard face, and that's what we're asking them to permit. So it's Yesco or Lamar. They continue to own it, and they would own that permit that they pay for each year.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple of questions. So how does, and I've wondered this actually for a little while, but we have a dark skies ordinance. And so how does that comply, or how would these changes comply with our dark skies ordinance?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Commission. So the 0.3 foot candle, stepping away, like currently we're not regulating brightness. Our only controls on signs deal with brilliance onto an adjacent property. So this is actually the first time we're putting in a hard cap that is measurable. It's a national standard. So it's a move in that direction for electronic message centers. But we don't currently have something on the books with size unless it is annoying a property owner that it faces. And to further that, Title 10 is our lighting ordinance, does not apply to signs.
Okay. So I guess my follow-up question would be, I think that's something that the reason we have a dark skies ordinance is because, you know, we're lucky to live in a place like this, and it just enhances our ability to enjoy the night sky and not make it look like Vegas when you're driving into town at 5:15. And right now we don't necessarily it seems like, have a way to promote that. So I don't know, I mean, I'd be interested if there's a way for us to ensure that the dark skies ordinance is complied with when it comes to this. I mean, it's something that came up when Northwestern was replacing all of the streetlights, and we've been really I would say persistent in ensuring that there's not light trespass, and that all of the new lighting is dark skies compliant. And I think it's important that we reflect that in all parts of our code, not just in residential lighting or commercial lighting, for example. The other question I had was, and you might need to do this on the 15th, but I think it might be helpful, at least for me, if we could maybe see like examples of how, say, your new business is being constructed, how the updates in this ordinance will differ from what we currently had. I think that it's pretty evident that we haven't had any updates since 1997, because it's like the Wild West all over town. And, especially when we are in the process of developing our new land use plan, consistent with a lot of the conversations during the last growth policy update. We want our community to be a beautiful, livable place, and not, again, looking like Vegas. And so I guess I'm interested in how we ensure that can happen. But I really appreciate all the work. So I remember when all the emails were coming in, like, it's off to you, because this is a very big update, and obviously, 25 years in the making.
Go ahead, just a comment. So I was trying to remember when this previously came up. Seems like it was your presentation said it was last fall. And Mr. Alvarez, you all may not know, but he met with a group of business owners and sign shop owners over breakfast one morning, and I joined him and did a really good job of addressing those concerns. And it seems like the public engagement has been constant throughout this process. So hopefully we'll get a good update on the 15th, but it is we did get quite a bit of email about this, as I recall, last fall, and it is a pretty important issue from a number of perspectives. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments from the commission? Do you have any public comments on this?
Yeah, I see no hands raised.
Thank you. At this time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I forgot to add in my presentation that Friday will be a ceremony for the new fire apparatus, where both wildland apparatus will be available to public. So I apologize.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
I see no hands raised, so no further public comment.
I'm here. That's good.
First time of the year.
If nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.